Thank you so much for joining us on It's Time today. We are your hosts. I'm Linsly Donnelly, your citizen scientist and your longevity expert for midlife women.
And I'm Dr. Jen Wagner, physician and holistic performance expert. Welcome to It's Time, powered by Prosper. Just a quick reminder, the information discussed in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. We are not offering medical advice, nor are we entering into any type of physician or clinician relationship with listeners. Always consult your healthcare provider before beginning any new fitness, nutrition, or lifestyle changes to ensure they're right for you. Your health and safety is our priority, and let's keep it that way.
All right. So good to be back together.
So good to see you.
I mean, I feel like this topic is front and center for us, but I think especially for you right now, because you are toggling so much professionally with, family and travel. And we've all had these moments, but I think you're in one of the moments where it amplifies a ton. And so this has been, front and center on our minds because of the dynamics of just trying to find time. And so The topic we're going to cover today is the power of no, of saying no to things, which is so hard for women to do, right?
So hard.
And simplifying.
Absolutely.
So as we kind of have this dialogue, we want to make sure we impart some really practical things that can help there, because it's a really abstract concept, but the implementation of it is hard.
It is. Yeah. And I think learning how to establish boundaries, and I do think it takes a sense of maybe maturity and experience to get there, but that doesn't mean we can't start practicing earlier.
Yeah.
And I think especially as women, we culturally prove ourselves by just saying yes and doing more. And so then it's a vicious cycle. You do it once and people ask you to do it again and again and again. And all of a sudden you're signed up on every committee at work, every committee at school, you're volunteering for every activity at home. And you're like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that as you get older, you become more aware of is this. It's kind of like the temptation of the speed of thought. You can see how quickly something can be done, but then to actually do it takes more time. So realizing that just because you can think about how to get that thing done doesn't necessarily mean it's going to serve you to spend your time to do the thing that can be done. So,
and I think, something that I have started to consider more is, yes, we want to say yes to all of these things, but in that spirit, what is the opportunity cost? Yeah. What am I not doing because I'm saying yes? And how important are those things that I can't do, which usually falls back into self-care.
Right.
I am sacrificing something I could do to care for myself in order to serve others. And that's not always bad, but we have to be careful that balance doesn't tip too far, or else we're not serving anyone.
Right. And I think, you and I have had this conversation where we're advocates that whatever your balance of self-care is right now, you need to tip it more the direction towards self-care. The more you do, the better it is. And all of those cliches of, you can't pour from an empty cup, or you can't show up your best if you're not taking care of yourself in the best way. All of that is true. Whatever your self-care is right now, lean into it another 50%.
Yes,
try
100%. So I liked your idea, as we were talking about how do we give some practicality to this? How do we make it operational in our lives? Is really kind of what is important to us, and we're going to do it from the lens of self-care.
Yes.
So if we go to say yes to something, what filters do we need to run through before we say yes? And I think that's step one is pause. Someone asks you to do something. Wow, that sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you for thinking about me. Let me get back to you. Give yourself some distance, even if it's the most exciting thing. Like, I think sometimes we're so eager to say yes to help, not to be considered a team player, that we don't think things all the way through.
Yeah. I think that is so true. I guarantee you, I don't pause ever when people ask me. I'm just like, can I do that? Probably yes or no. Yeah, I just jump in there.
Right.
So that is a great first step. So number one, when you're asked, pause, and just give yourself the time to filter.
Absolutely. Okay. And it can be done in a gracious way. It can be done just even I've almost learned to say, this is an amazing opportunity. I want to make sure I have the time to commit to it the way it deserves to be committed to. Because that's the worst feeling ever, when you are excited about something and you realize you're going to kind of half-ass it because you don't actually have the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah. And as you were describing this, as we were thinking about this conversation, I love your suggestion, which I'd say is number 2, is to look at your calendar and actually start to look at your time blocks and take things off actively right now. Right. Yeah. So describe kind of the mechanics of that.
So I think, as our calendars get busier and busier, and, it ebbs and flows with time of year, and maybe now there's a little more bandwidth because school's out if you're a parent, or maybe there's less bandwidth.
There's no bandwidth,
or maybe there's less bandwidth because school's out
because
you're a parent.
It's like, and you're an Uber driver now.
Yeah, exactly. So look at your calendar and kind of prioritize. These are the have-tos. We all have those,
yes.
Whether it's work-related, family-related, social, we all have the have-tos. And have-to is not bad. Like, I don't mean like it's a negative, but there are things that we have to do. And sometimes they're really fun. Sometimes they're not as fun. And then there's some strong no's that we can go back and go, I really don't need to do that.
Yeah.
That is not serving me. That is not serving my values, my goals, etc. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that I feel like sits in that gray area. So what I've started doing is saying, okay, our 5 pillars are really important, right? So when we talk about our 5 pillars, we're talking about mindset, movement, nourishing, sleeping and recovering, and this idea of beyond. So our community, our connection, belonging to something larger than ourselves. So then I kind of filter these gray area activities through that. Like, is this helping me in any of these places?
Yeah.
And it sounds even selfish coming out of my mouth, but like when you sit down and do it, most of those things also benefit your family or benefit your professional career if you're filtering it correctly.
Right.
And so like it does, at least for me, it felt real selfish at first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think all self-care does. And that's just the nature of being a female. It just is going to feel that way. But, if you think about, okay, number 1, pause. Number 2, take a look at your calendar and see, how to create space for it. But I think number 3 could be for the things that you decide to keep. You and I think everybody who we are in community with, they're so used to giving their best effort all the time. So it's like straight A's, that's what we do. And as I've gotten older, I look at the pie and I'm like, you know what? I can do this at a C effort. It's okay. It doesn't need to be a straight A. Not every area has to be a straight A. It's like just having all this going on is a straight A, right? So a lot of it I do at B or C level now, even though I know how to do it in the straight A way. It's like, it's not worth it, right? Yeah. So you don't have to over rev on every single thing.
I think that's so critical. And again, I think it's hard to do as a woman because I think we often feel like we're held to a different standard. I think it's hard to do as a leader because we feel like we have to model the best at all times. Yep. And so I think that that's really, really great advice. And I think what goes along with that is, does it always need to be me?
Right.
It's like we have people in our communities and we have people on our teams, whether it's at work or at home, that might be better at doing this or might benefit more from doing that, right? And so it's like, can we delegate or share some of these asks with people that would really benefit from it?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. I think the other part of the calendar, which I would say is our number 4 idea, is make blocks on the calendar for free time, for downtime, because I think there's a lot of it, which is just this like, everything's scheduled at 5-minute increments. And so you're in a race from the beginning of the day until the end of the night. And so actually scheduling the exhales is important.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of my calendar last week when I was traveling, and literally I had in-person meeting after in-person meeting all over this campus with no travel time. I looked at it and I said,
how do I get there?
I can't beam myself from one part to the other. So I called everyone on my calendar in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm going to be 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Like I can run, I'm pretty fast. I can move around pretty fast, but I was like, I'm going to be late. Yeah. So I think that's really important. I think for younger women, and so maybe these are your daughters who are listening to us, or you want to share this with younger people in your communities, these kind of young professionals, I feel like that's the hardest place to start this practice. So what advice would you give them to say, like, think back, I'm going to challenge you to think back to like your early consulting days where you're in there and you are in this go-getter career.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there are kind of 3 things that helped me navigate it then and that I brought to kind of teams afterwards. Number 1 was I got clear on what my non-negotiables were really early in life. I knew even then that it was working out. It was sleep. It was really basically those 2. Yeah. So when I met with my teams, I would say, these are my must-haves. So I can work as late at night as possible, but I need to be able to have the hour and a half to work out. So that was number 1. Number 2 was I did start to schedule in the buffer time. So I would look at a meeting, instead of saying it's going to be an hour, I would say 45 minutes. Why does it have to be an hour? Just because there are hour slots on the calendar. It doesn't have to be. It could even be 20, instead of a 30-minute. So that was another thing was buffer time. And then the third thing was learning that there were things, just as you described it, that I'm not good at. Yeah. Like, this is not my strong suit. I'm gonna take way too much time to do this. So I need someone else to fill in my capability.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And I think I think what we forget is it models behavior for people around us.
Yes.
And it creates a healthy, whether it's work or home, it creates these really healthy environments. And by healthy, I'm not just talking about physical health. It shows that we are humans. We all have stuff, right? And so, but if we are prioritizing taking care of ourselves, that means other people feel empowered to prioritize taking care of themselves too. Like I was laughing this last week as I was traveling, and I would go work out early before my day started, and I would see half my colleagues.
Oh, right.
They're doing it too. And it was like, it was time to work out. It was not chit chat and start work talk. Like we actually really kept those boundaries. It was, hey, how are you? Great to see you. Yeah. And we did our stuff. And it wasn't like, oh, in our meeting today, I need to talk to you about this. Like it was very, and I was like, that's really nice that I can, because that would have been a turnoff to me. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go in the gym if all my work colleagues are there and we're actually just now starting the workday 2 hours earlier.
Right.
No. So it was actually really great to see, but it had been modeled from the top down. Like the boss was in there working out.
Yeah.
And so we knew nobody's going to push our meeting times earlier because this is protected and we're all using it for our own need.
Yeah, that is such a great insight too, because I think one thing I didn't realize when I was in my 20s and 30s, and you just highlighted, is you spend a lot of time at work. So it's so important to curate the community of people that you're going to be working with. So that's a norm in the culture where you are now. So there are many cultures where that is not the norm, right? It's like a badge of honor to sleep 2 hours. And, so that is, a reflecting moment of like, well, where do I want to be working professionally?
Right.
What value set do I want to be surrounded by?
I think that's huge. And, I can hear the arguments coming back to us. Well, I don't have control over my work environment, et cetera. And I think we both understand that. Like, it's funny. I didn't think I had control. Right. And I tell this story a lot. When I was a junior attending in the hospital, we had an infant and a toddler. And my husband and I were on some sort of call, not always overnight call, but some sort of call 4 out of 7 nights a week and 3 out of 4 weekends a month. It was just unattainable.
Right.
Like unsustainable, I should say, not attainable, sustainable. And I didn't think I had any other options. I was junior. This is the way it was done. No one had ever shown me it could have been done differently. They're like, no, you just need to hire more help. And I'm like, I don't have any money to hire more help.
Right.
And I was like, and I actually didn't have a family to just keep hiring help. So I was like, that's not the right solution for us. And I literally had found a part-time job and was going in to tell my boss I was quitting. And I remember him looking at me going, well, what do you need? And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. I was blown away that someone asked me that question. Yeah. And I said, well, this is what I need. I know you can't do it. And he's like, well, why can't I do it? Yeah. So it's like, I don't even know why I prefaced it that way. And he was like, give me 2 weeks, and came back and presented me with a schedule where I actually worked more hours, but there was a consistency that I needed. I will tell you, not everyone on my team was appreciative that I was given that opportunity. And I said,
that definitely happens.
And they challenged me on it. And I said, have you ever gone to ask?
Yeah.
And they said no. And I said, then don't judge and criticize me because I went to ask.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't ask to work less.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for anything other than some consistency and creative scheduling. And they said yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one thing that, if you need to preserve boundaries or you have something that's not working, we think it's this huge inconvenience to ask, or it's going to look like we're not committed or giving our all. And I don't think that's true. I think that shows that we don't value our contribution.
Well, yeah, I mean, we just it hasn't been normalized. You're right. Being the example is what you need to be. There was a question we used to always use kind of in a business context, but it sprung to my mind when you were describing the work tensions. Like we would ask, what would we have to believe to be true? So is this business going to be successful? Yes or no? What would we have to believe to be true? And so we'd have to put in the parameters of what would make it profitable. Mm-hmm. And so the same thing for your work tension. Okay, what would I have to make this work, and to be able to articulate that, which nobody had given you the invitation before. But now, you're kind of reminding us all, give yourself the invitation. Right. Ask yourself, what do you need?
And I think, it all has to be done with the filter of this is reality. We can't ask for everything we want, but I think it goes back to saying, whether you're in the position of you're starting something new or thinking about making a change is like, write down exactly what you said. What are your non-negotiables?
Yeah. And start there.
Start there. And then say, okay, these are the things I can flex on. And then kind of design what you want and then prioritize what you need to ask for.
Well, but I also think that happens in relationships. You know, I mean, obviously we've had the luxury of being in a relationship now for a longer time. Both of us have. But in the beginning, you know, you don't know to ask for what you need either. And
Correct.
So that you have new babies, you're both working hard. It's like, I need to be able to sit down with my partner and say, here's what I need.
Right.
Because I can't expect the partner to be a mind reader.
Right.
So that's part of the know your boundaries, the power to say no, is in all of that, owning the opportunity and the responsibility to value your time.
Yeah.
And know what you want to do with that time.
I think, so how do you, address, I'm not in a position that I can ask for things? Because I think I hear that a lot. And I'm sure you hear that a lot. Like, I have no control. I'm not in the position I can ask for things.
So I think there are kind of two ways to come at that. One is the way you've already served up, which is actually you have more control than you think. So take the opportunity to first at least articulate what it is you want, and then you can negotiate off of there. But I think the second thing is it's not all or nothing, right? So you can pick arenas of your life where you do have control and make those choices there first. And that might be what time you get up in the morning. It might be what time you go to bed. You know, some of those things are definitely in your control. And then start to build that accountability for what you value in those arenas. And then just, I say, continue to go to the table, try to negotiate for more. And eventually, you know, nobody wants to be financially bereft. So you're not like, just quit your job, but you should be able to start to think through, what do I need and how do I go find it if this job's not going to be the place for it?
Such good advice. Okay. So let's review. So number one is
pause and reflect.
Pause and reflect.
Just reflect if you're going to do it or not. Don't answer.
You know, it's the same strategy when you get that really annoying email that just gets all of your emotions out of control. Yeah. The worst thing to do is type the immediate response, right? So you just need to give it a minute, even if it's an exciting opportunity. And then really, filter through your values. Like, we use our pillars because that really reflects our values.
Yes. Yeah.
We use our 5 pillars to filter it through and say, is it going to serve me in these 5 pillars, which covers our community, which covers our goals, covers all of those things.
Yeah. And that's the way to deal with that gray area on your calendar.
Right.
Like, can I take it off or not?
Right. And then I think number 3 is, we don't always have to do everything at 100%.
Right.
Sometimes 80% is good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the enemy of good is better.
Yes. So that's 3. Number 4 is to put in those blocks, those buffer zones. So specifically your values, put the blocks in, the workout, like it's a non-negotiable. And then also put in the buffers for you to exhale, for you to run into traffic, you know, build those in so that you're not having that low level sprinting cortisol with you all day long.
And I would also say, maybe build in the time and block off the time, kind of reverse, like, of things that you really have put off. So if it's dinner with a friend or coffee with your partner or whatever some of those things are that fuel you, that you tend to put off, put them in.
Yes.
Because they matter. And you're going to go back and do the rest of the stuff better.
Yeah.
Because you filled your cup.
What is that story too? It's always put the big rocks in first.
Yeah.
Right? That whole story. Like, that's it. Put the big rocks in first, and then you can fill it in with the little stuff. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. The 5th one, which I thought your work example was so powerful, it's like, know that you have permission to ask. So own that permission, right? Like, take accountability to articulate what you need to yourself first, and then go ask for it. Even if in dynamics where you think you don't have total control, you can do that in the arenas where you do have control, and then start to build from there.
100%. All right. Well, we hope this helps, because we know this is something that is ongoing for us. Like, it's not perfect. We still struggle with it, but the more we practice, the easier it gets. And the more we model for others, the better everything around you becomes. And so it's like, you know, I have new teams in this new position that I have taken. I ask a lot of questions right now, but I've also put some boundaries on. Like, no, you cannot reach me at this point in the day. I am done. Or if I'm traveling, I am not going to kill myself trying to work the entire time I'm traveling. There are blocks where I'm going to be slower to respond. Yep. So I think that, you know, we hold ourselves to these standards sometimes, like you said, that are just, you don't have to be held to all the time.
Yep. So I remember when living in California before here, I was really active in the PTA. So I was like PTA president. And then of course, when I moved here, I told people I didn't know anything about the PTA. So I can't be involved because it was just a time killer. Yeah. But I learned this phrase, which was, people would bring to me all these problems. I wanted to fix this. And I was like, that's a great idea. You should do it.
Yeah.
You should do that. That's a great idea. So just because somebody brings you the problem doesn't mean it's yours to solve.
100%. 100%. I feel like I gave that exact advice out the other day. I was like, it's okay for people to bring you the problem so you know that they're there. That doesn't mean you have to go solve every one of them. I was talking to one of our leaders and I said, so, because that's going to cause you to get bogged down. Yeah. So like you got to stay a little bit above that. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, we hope this helps. Yes. We'll see you next time.
Create some space.
Create some space. Yes. Take care.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. If you liked what you heard and you got some tips on how to live better right now and for the long haul, please help us reach more midlife women. Please share and rate and like this show. And we can't wait to continue the dialogue with you on our next episode. Until then, thank you. It's time.